If I may, is it too loud? That's okay? Yeah? Okay. Good morning everyone. If I may repeat the words of the boss. In Finland, we're always on time even when we're late. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to Kemi. It is a pleasure to have you here. I think we have a conference with high-level people. It is quite exceptional. And I think that this is very well justified. To be honest, yesterday I was looking for my icebreaker in the morning, and then I realized that the nap way I was drinking, the less ice was my icebreaker. But the only thing that remained was that I didn't have my northern lights, and then it got back to these environmental things. So this is what we will be talking about today. We'll be talking about how we can tackle environmental issues through economy, and with clusters in particular. Without any further delay, I will invite our beloved governor, county governor of Lapland and mayor of Kemi, Mika Ripi and Tero Nisinen to join me and open the conference.
Thank you. Fear is working. Now it's working. Thank you, and it's great to see so many people here. Actually, from this point of view, I believe the view is much more inspiring than sitting there. So I recommend that during the day you will always also look back of you, because now that even the sky is a little bit more clear than yesterday. But from my behalf, it's great to have you all here, especially our guests from all over the Europe. I'm very proud that we had this opportunity to organize this conference here in Lapland and in the city of Kemi, in the heart of the sea Lapland. Few words about the Lapland. In the context of development, the Lappish path has been quite successful for recent years. The backbone of our strong economy is, of course, the diversity of our brand of industries. We don't rely on one brand of industry, we have several of them. And of course, the role of the forestry, role of the metal mining, role of the tourism, they are the backbones, but behind them there are a lot of growing new industries, creative industries, arctic testing industries, and so on. So our whole development theme has been quite strong for past years. And behind of those development has been, of course, our main strategic goal, the sustainable use of our natural resources and sustainable use of our natural conditions. Of course, in the recent years, the concept of sustainability has risen very much. Also here in Lapland, and if you think about the northern parts of the whole Europe, I think that the role of our regions is growing. The challenges of the climate change, challenges of the resource efficiency, they lead to more sustainable ways of using our natural resources and also replacing the fossil and carbon-based elements. So I think that in the future, the role of the North will be much more strong, and we can be actually as a forerunners in the development of all European Union sustainable economy. Since the beginning of our smart specialization here in Lapland, it's now actually 7 years ago or 8 years ago, there was two major sort of back elements that we noticed. One is that we do lack of people here in North. That's a fact. We don't have that critical mass that in most parts of the Europe there are. But at the same time, we have an excellent infrastructure. We have an excellent know-how. Our universities, our University of Applied Sciences, our municipalities and municipal developers create a very strong network together. And that's quite rare if you think about the latitudes that we are living here in the northern part of Europe. And how we chose our path in the smart specialization, from the beginning we chose the path of the clusterizing. And of course, the path is still, how I might say, going on. We have nowadays 5 functional clusters, the smart rural cluster, design cluster, safety cluster, development facilities cluster, and of course the Arctic Circular Economy cluster. They are in different phases and they are evolving, and the new are also on their way. And actually, the role of the tourism and the tourism ecosystem is now under construction. And actually, yesterday I had an opportunity to host a very strong network of stakeholders from sports industry in Rovaniemi, and I believe that sports will become the next of strong clusters. But as I told, the clusters are evolving and they are sort of living entities, and of course I must say that and admit that our crownstone in the cluster policy has been, of course, the Arctic Circular Economy cluster, and actually that's why we are here today and tomorrow. I must say that the reason behind that is quite simple. It's a strong commitment of different stakeholders, strong commitment of the cities of the region, and especially the strong commitment of the industry in the region. Not only the big industry, but also the SMEs and the cooperation between those. I think that there are lot of things to learn about this kind of a working cooperation and collaboration attitude, and I hope that this is one of those issues that we will discuss also within these days. But once again, I hope that we will have fruitful discussions and a lot of networking, new connections. They are very important. And from behalf of myself and behalf of the Regional Council of Lapland, I'd like to wish you once again welcome and have a fruitful conference. Thank you. And now to the floor to Tero.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tero, Mayor of Kemi City, and like Mr. Governor, I'm very happy and proud to have this conference dragged over there here in the northern corner of Europe. I think we kind of been earning to have this conference with this big commitment and development work what we've been doing for the last decade here in our area in the industrial circle economy. Because it was about 2012 when our digital development company started operations with our industries, with the University of Applied Sciences, and 2017 we had the pleasure to have the Industrial Circular Economy Center with the big commitment of the Lapland University of Applied Sciences, Sitra, and the industries here around the area. City of Kemi had last year 150 years birthday or anniversary. And we have been projecting for the last 2-3 years green and sustainable Kemi. There's a small green leaf in our logo, and we are taking it very seriously. One of the efforts, what we was recognized last March, was that as a first mainland Finnish municipality, we got the ISO 14001 environmental standard for the city, for the whole city operations, and now we are bringing fast further to all the operations of the city and the companies that city owns. For instance, this year-round snow castle is heated by the ground heat, the solar panels up in the roof, and so we are trying to really be sustainable in the future. But without further speak, like I said, very proud and honored to have you all here in Kemi, and I, like Mr. Governor, wishing you all the best and fruitful days here with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol, Mika. As a foreigner, I can only echo what is going on in both Kemi and Lapland, as well as Tornio. My colleague Bernard Gendros and myself are French, so nobody is perfect. But I must say that we've been supporting Finns and the Arctic in general in terms of innovation, circular economy. And my comment yesterday night was that in the Arctic we don't know how to communicate, but there is a lot happening here. So what can we expect for today? Today we are going to learn from each other. We're going to discuss business models of clusters. We're going to discuss strategy frameworks, policy frameworks. But let me first thank our host for today. So I think that we have a nice bundling of European, Finnish, and regional authorities involved. Thank you very much for hosting. I will not make it too long, but you may wish to know, I'm still that bad with this thing. Okay, you may wish to know who's speaking. My name is Pierre Padilla. I am the founder of Enable, which is a firm dedicated to innovation investment. With me today, Bernard Gendros, who is an Enable expert in industrial circular economy and chair of multiple Sense-Lake standardization committees. We will hear from that about that a little bit later. But let's get to it. The rules and the principles. The first one is informal. We do not want to keep things very formal, very square. And this leads me to the second rule, interactive. Please interrupt, ask questions, comments, question things. This is to us very important. This is what will make the day and whether we learn anything or not. Then, of course, share your practical experience. We have panel speakers, but we have actually very experienced contributors as well in the room. So we want to hear also from business cases that you wish to promote, wish to put forward. And then, of course, networking. This is what many of you also came for. Now, the morning program will start in a second with introductory remarks from Deputy Director General from DG Environment, Joanna Drake, as well as Director from DG Grow, Mr. Slavomir Pekatski. Then we will have a session dedicated to networks and their collaboration across Europe, and we will finish on clusters and their role in the ecosystems. From there we will get on the lunch session, and I will introduce the afternoon session after this beautiful lunch, Lapis style, and I think we will then finish the day on Lapis cocktail, which is even better. But without any further ado, I will invite Joanna, Slavomir to join me for introductory remarks. I think that it is very clear. We will start from the policy framework. We will start from the new strategies in place. There is a new commission now in function. And we will shift to the strategies and then the clusters. And I look very much forward to this. Joanna, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, good morning everyone. First of all, thank you so much the Region Council of Lapland, the Cluster Region Police, and also the City of Kemi for co-organizing this event together with the European Commission. It's so lovely to look at this beautiful view here in front of me coming from the south. I tell you, it's quite rare to see such white in front of you, and such a lovely, peaceful setting. So thank you for organizing this. This was to our Finnish friends. I'm really grateful for that. Well, somebody before, I think it was you here who mentioned about the Northern Lights and the disappointment that we're not going to see them in these 2 days. My goodness, it's a big disappointment, I tell you, for me especially. But we have had a lot of tailwind, haven't we? I think people have been, I think somebody has been traveling yesterday from Helsinki, and there was so much tailwind in the plane, they had actually to go back to Helsinki because it was going out of control, so they had to control the speed. Now, why do I mention the tailwind here? It's because you might be wondering, what am I doing here from DG Environment, where we are about to launch another Circular Economy Action Plan after the one of 2015 as part of the Green Deal. That's the bigger chapeau, the bigger picture. And clusters. Of course, there's a huge link, and you know it already, but what's the tailwind got to do with it? I think the theme of what I want to talk about is how much this is about putting the tailwind in the speed towards transition, towards circular economy. And how do you do that? By putting the tailwind in the clusters. And I think this is the magic formula. It needs to be the empowerment of clusters that have long been existed at the forefront of changing things from normality and bringing about a new norm, a new normality into the world, into innovation, into the economy, and now thrusting all that into the speed and scale for the circular economy to take off. And I think this is the link. We need to put the tailwind. But, like the plane yesterday coming from Helsinki to Kemi, we have to keep the control. It cannot be out of step with people. And it is people that we need as well on the ground, and we need to bring them along with us. So we need to keep the control of the speed, we need the tailwind, but we need also to keep the speed. Why am I saying this? Because if you look at the Green Deal and the way it has been introduced, the way it has been put forward by the new president of the Commission, Ms. von der Leyen, she did say the Green Deal is a new growth strategy, and I would hasten to add, responsible growth strategy. And secondly, she said we cannot leave anybody behind. And I think this is really, really key, that even clusters need to understand and also put at the center of whatever knowledge and whatever networking and whatever innovation they really want to deploy right there on the market. But I would start with a thank you. And a thank you coming from DG Environment, who are always a little bit wary and cautious about growth models, business models, are they really, really going to the green transition, or are they just wanting to make a quick buck? And I want to say thank you to clusters for the simple reason that I know that a lot of clusters in Europe, and our latest figures, of course, Paula here might want to correct me, it's 250 green clusters that have actually been pushing forward the transition towards circularity, towards much more sustainable development. And I think that's really heartfelt. We know that you really mean it. You know that we're thinking about the main difference in the various regions and the various local communities, where I think you are taking into account also people's space. So you are great multipliers for the circular economy, and we want you to really remain in this very solid partnership with us and with the whole of Europe. We are being much more ambitious on the circular economy because we want to be much more ambitious in the results on the ground and the speed of the results on the ground. We have had already quite good results, and also the prospects are good. We know that circular economy brings about savings to companies. We know that it's very inclusive for SMEs, even SMEs themselves are still a bit on the weaker side in terms of knowledge, in terms of contacts, in terms of having access to innovation and to finance. But at the end of the day, they are the ones who will bring about the speed revolution. But we need to speed it up and scale it up because we want to ensure that, yes, von der Leyen did say it is a growth strategy. Why? Because we need to keep the competitive edge. And I think this is the way that we need to think forward. We need to have the first mover advantage as I'm sure a lot of companies here are already doing, not only in Finland, but the rest of the EU. They're thinking of how to keep that competitive advantage. Very hard in this world that we're living in. But what's the plan? What are we planning to do, hopefully on the 10th of March? Well, the Green Deal has set forward a number of initiatives in order to hasten this transition towards sustainable development. We are in the lead for 3 of them, and that's the circular economy, which I'll be talking about today, about what we plan to do, which I'm sure will be interesting for you. Of course, a lot of it is still under wraps in the sense that it's not a done deal yet. It's something that we need to roll out because of a lot of consultation that's still happening with our stakeholders and also between the institutions. Not least, of course, the member states themselves, who we'd like them to be adopting this and embracing this at the national level. Otherwise, it remains just a document at European level with little impact on the ground. So, the other one is biodiversity, which will also be published, I would say, towards the end of February. That's the latest date we've had. And there, you might say, what are we to do with biodiversity? Well, there's going to be a big monument, hopefully, in Kunming in China. Hopefully, the coronavirus would have subsided by then, by October, where we'd like to have a Paris moment for biodiversity. In other words, we'd like to set targets for achieving a better state of nature on biodiversity. And of course, next year we'll have a zero pollution ambition, which will be rolled out as well. Now, regarding circular economy, what are we planning to do? Well, what you should expect that, first of all, there will be much more focus on sectors that have a high potential from bringing about the speed and the scale that I talked about earlier. So we're going to build, of course, on what we have done already in 2015. We shall be focusing on product policy. In other words, we'll be looking at the whole life cycle of products, and we'd like to make affordable and sustainable products the norm, not the exception. In other words, we'd like to extend the lifetime of products. We'd like to reduce the environmental impact of products. We'd like to reduce the impact derived from the manufacturing and also use and also end of life of the products. We'd like to use the action plan to scale up even more the transformation of waste into resources and also to avoid waste altogether. In other words, the word waste should actually merely cease to exist on the dictionary. In other words, waste and resource should be interchangeable. Of course, it's high ambition, but of course, you cannot do this without having the consumer with you and empowering the consumer. Now, what do we intend to do there? There we need to have a consumer who's empowered to make the right choice as easily as possible. Again, bringing it to the center. And by this, we mean we'd like them to have more information about the choices. In other words, what is the environmental footprint of this product? Is it really deserving of the green claims that it's actually saying it has? Also, when you buy a product, shouldn't you have the right to repair it? Shouldn't you have the right that it's reusable and durable? Shouldn't we curb the built-in obsolescence of devices? In other words, devices that are meant to last 2 or 3 years, after which time everybody says, just chuck it. It makes more sense, it's more economical, and buy a new one. Why? Because it's new technology, it's cheaper, etc. All this needs to go away, at least for those devices or appliances that are meant or deemed to be quite an investment from the point of view of the consumer. And of course, we'll also be quoting, or at least we try to make the best efforts to tackle false green claims. In other words, we'll be creating a methodology to assess whether the claims from products are actually deserving of what they are saying, that they have less impact on the environment. Also, we shall be building on what we've done already on plastics. As you know, plastic strategy was introduced just a few months ago, and will be to help member states to continue to implement it. However, we'll be stepping up also our war on the negative effects of plastic on the environment. Therefore, we shall be tackling microplastics, which are intentionally added to products, and therefore we have to tackle the unintentional impact on the environment of those microplastics, for instance on textiles and tire abrasion. And also we will develop requirements to ensure that all plastic packaging in the European Union is reusable or recyclable in an economically viable manner by 2030. We should also be adopting the framework, which still causes quite a lot of confusion on biodegradable and bio-based plastics. Why? Because, of course, this is part of the strategy on single-use plastics as well. Textiles. I did mention textiles because this is according to a report by the Environmental Agency in Copenhagen, which says that textiles is the fourth biggest pressure on the use of resources that exists. Why? Because very little of textiles is actually recycled, and most of it ends up in landfills or incinerated. We have to start tackling that too. And we know that, of course, textiles are really important to us. Clothes, shoes, upholstery, carpeting, cars, etc. But we also have to look at how we can respond to these challenges. By, for instance, looking at the life cycle of the textiles. How can we stop the negative impacts on land use when sourcing textiles? How can we foster design for repairability, durability, and recyclability of materials and clothing? How can we support the emergence of new consumption patterns? You've seen Jane Fonda on the red carpet, you might have seen the Oscars ceremony on Sunday, and she was very proud to say, you know, not only have I spent 7 hours doing my hair sooner, but I've also recycled my red gown of 6 years ago. Well, okay, I'm sure she's got wardrobes and wardrobes of textiles which have already gone maybe to the landfill before, but she is setting a trend. And I think a lot of young people today are setting trends, by the way. I'm sure that a lot of us have access to younger generations from children, nephews, nieces, friends, etc. They are a bit more propensity, but they have a bit more propensity to actually reuse and hand down and recycle or upcycle textiles too. Even if there are a lot of pressures for them to actually buy cheap stuff from the internet, etc. We also want to bring together and ensure coherence of existing policy tools such as the extended producer responsibility schemes, green public procurement, and eco-label in order to take into account also the separate collection of textiles by 2025. Now, of course, all this is assuming that there is support for business. And you have to support innovation, you have to support investments in the right direction. And all this needs to go hand in hand. We've just published the Sustainable Europe Investment Plan, and there you can see that there's a lot of coherent thinking in this direction in order to give the signals to investors and also to those making the decisions in financing institutions, including the European Investment Bank and the European Investment Fund, and all the other banks with whom the European Commission might be having a strategic interest to work with, and that the pipeline of projects needs to be the right one, going in the direction of giving the right signals to investors as to also the return on their investment being sound for these sort of projects. But in the meantime, if we want to foster industrial symbiosis, we need to do it also through a strategy for SME. And I'm sure that my colleague here will be talking about that, because that will also be accompanied the Circular Economy Action Plan 2.0. However, there are already platforms. There's already a cluster collaboration platform. There's already a circular economy stakeholder platform, which we run together with the European Economic and Social Committee. And this is a very useful tool, because at the end of the day, what people need to do, especially in the SME community, especially when you are encouraging and guiding SMEs, is to serve as a crossroad to enable an exchange of information and also to give network opportunity. There's also the ERIC tool, which you know already about, and you need to go there, which gives a lot of advice and training, because SMEs don't only require money, but they also require a lot of assistance in kind, in terms of guidance, in terms of training, in terms of capacity building, etc. I'd like to conclude by stressing what I said at the beginning, that clusters, circular economy, the same like cluster policy, is not about policy making only. If it were, I think we'd just be wasting our time here. It's about actually stakeholders coming together, committing themselves to the same direction of traffic. It's about having a look again at what you have been doing and recognizing that because of where we are in terms of resource depletion in the world, business as usual is simply not on. We have to have another look at how to do business, changing the business models, and getting involved in new kinds of partnership, and also sourcing new skills required for tomorrow's work in order to make it more of a responsible type of growth and forward. This is why we support clusters, and this is why I say from the beginning, not only do I thank you, but I also encourage you to have the tailwind in order to put a lot of speed and scale into this transition as fast as possible. And I think this is how we can unleash the real potential of what lies inside our conscience and inside our knowledge and awareness of where this world is going, and that there is no planet B, neither is there plan B. I think we all need to be part of plan A and planet A, and conserve it and take it forward with responsible growth in mind. Thank you very much, and I hope you will have not only a lot of ideas, but also a lot of networking opportunities that you can actually work on and take on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanna. I believe that I won't be the only one thinking that it's the first time we have this level of ambition at the European level. Environmental target, the role of businesses and clusters toward environment. The Green Deal is something that is a little bit of a nebula for many people. What are the next steps and milestones?
Well, first of all, the Green Deal has to happen in terms of all across the policy areas. And I think the most important part is that it's made up of different elements. So it's not us pushing the biodiversity, air pollution, zero pollution, and circular economy, but it's also the energy field, for instance, being part of the climate ambition of zero emissions by 2050. We have the climate law and the climate pact. Why the pact? Because we want to have a pact with the stakeholders. What about the other areas, let's say, alternative fuels for transport? We still know that if we have a zero ambition, but nobody's wanting to do anything about what sort of fuels we're going to put into our cars, if we still have cars, or public transport, or planes, then of course, it falls through. So I think the most important part about the Green Deal is not about, where we put the money, what signals we give to investors, what policies, what targets, what ambition we have. So it's about implementing it together. And I think this is the biggest ambition that the Commission has had in terms of working with it. Because the term co-creation today within the European Commission has somehow been coined together because of the way we're doing things. but also because it indicates that there has been a shift in behavior and the way that we want to co-create policy rather than just one DG, one Director General, one department of the Commission saying, look, this is our ambition, this is where we're going, and everybody else follows, and just make tweaks here and there, and then maybe let it fall aside. I think the first sign of the beginning is that this has to be really an effort in commonality, in common building together. And I think this is the way we have been doing it in the Green Deal. Now, of course, that's only part of the story. The moment that goes along and we say, let's say like Circular Economy Action Plan, let's say it's out on the 10th of March as it is actually promised. You know, the take-up from member states is even more important than what we are saying at our level. Not that the member states would not have already signed up to it as a European instrument, but the most important is, does this have an impact on the way that things are done now at the national level, at the regional level? And we have found, from the Circular Economy Action Plan version 1.0, which is the one that ever existed, is that it has actually evolved onto the member states. And today we find that many member states and a lot of cities, actually, or regions, have actually come together to co-create a one direction of traffic in terms of circular economy. So, for instance, we have many examples, not only here, even in Finland, that this we find the Ministry of the Economy and the Ministry of the Environment working together in order to create their own common plan, which gives a signal, therefore, to the rest of the team of governments, if you like, in the member states or in the region, to actually follow suit. They create parameters, and I think this is a really good example.
This echoes, I think, a very interesting discussion we had yesterday, where we agreed that I think we're not there yet. Everything's in design, everything's about to be launched. So new Green Deal will imply also new instruments. And I think I turn to you now, Slavic. SMEs, clusters, global value chains will have a critical role in this. Well, let's see.
Yes, does it work? Yes. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting us here. I couldn't resist when I was listening to the story about Jane Fonda at 6 years dress, because my shoes are 8 years old. So I was But yes, I would like to share with you some reflections from the point of view of industrial policy. And I think that from this perspective, this conference is very timely, because we are right now on the verge of debating for this big journey towards climate neutrality. It is this moment, or either we break it or we make it. We are at the moment when we as a Commission will set up a comprehensive policy framework that is supposed to allow us to get there. And when I say comprehensive, you could see that it ranges from circular economy to Green Deal, industrial policy, skills agenda. So we're really trying to look at the whole policy framework. We are starting industrial policy, which was not that evident a couple of years ago, so it's going to be a really interesting policy. This policy is going to be comprehensive, and Joanna said it very well, that we should not any longer work in silos, but sitting much more often, like we do today, and discussing our objectives from the joint perspective. And we also will need to change the way that we do the policy. Joanna made this remark about moving in the same direction the traffic. So it's like fellow travelers. We need not only to regulate and then just to comply, but we also need to co-create in a sense that we share the same values and we share the same sense of journey of the way and of the objective where we want to arrive together. So what's the challenge ahead of us? What's the challenge from the industrial perspective? Now we clearly see that this increased attention to sustainability, it means something. It creates demand for new products, new technologies and services, with this objective of reducing environmental footprint in all value chains in Europe and globally. And when I say value chain, is very much in the spirit of new industrial policy, where we want to focus even more than traditional sectors on value chains, because those value chains seem to be key in the way the industry operates today. Now that means that EU businesses will have to adapt their business models and they offer to respond to these new challenges. And they will also have the way they manufacture and do logistics. And this will require really deep change in all those value chains between now, 2030 and 2050. Even if you think about tourism, which is so important for Lapland, the demand for carbon-free tourism will be increasing. People would like to spend carbon-free holidays, and probably also the supply of tourist offer will have to adapt accordingly. This is also the requirement for public buyers, because they will also need to invest in critical sectors such as mobility, buildings, or infrastructure. And this also brings in huge business opportunities, because procurement budgets are worth almost 2 trillion euro per year in the European Union. From the world perspective, we all know that an annual global investment of more than 3 trillion euros in low carbon and circular technologies will be needed only to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement. This, for the EU, if translated, would mean that we need to spend more than 1 trillion for all sectors. However, on the other side, there is also deep conviction that if we manage properly this transition, we will benefit from being the first movers into green economy. And the gains to the economy are calculated between 1.2 and 2.6% GDP annually by 2050. So they are quite important. Now I will say something about industrial policy to the extent I can, because it still has not been adopted. But before that, I would also like to say a word about manufacturing industries. Because it's also manufacturing, we often speak about digital, we tend to forget about manufacturing, but they will also be affected by this change, and we have to develop new products and services that respond to the needs of the markets. And that means in practice they will have to provide new equipment for other sectors, such as power, agriculture, construction, recycling, new materials for a smarter and cleaner built environment, and new components, for example, for smart vehicles or new packaging for the food supply. So all in all, they will need to make the supply chains to be more performant dimensionally and to embrace more circularity. And they will have to increase material productivity, very much in the spirit of the single-use plastic directive. Now something about the industrial policy communication, but also related to the work we intend to develop with the industry in the years to come. Some of you might know that we launched 2 years ago a strategic forum for so-called important projects of common European interest. And this was the method a little bit where we are trying to travel together, to find a way of defining together with the member states and industry which are those critical areas of economic activity, which are the most important value chains, which matter the most for the future of European economy. So rather than ask from Brussels what needs to be done, we sit together around one table, together with the representatives of the member states, and with the industry, and ask them, look, what is really in there, where would you be prepared to invest your effort, your money, your policy making, so that we can get there. And the forum came out with the recommendations for a number of strategic value chains on which we should focus. And simply put, this focus is important because in the past we always try to do a bit of everything, and now we have to concentrate on something. The amount of political energy and financial resources in it, so we have to do something at the same time and be under the understanding that it's a priority for each of us. Some of those strategic value chains where we agreed to work together and develop them further have very clear importance for Green Deal. So batteries, connected clean and autonomous vehicles, low CO2 emission industry, hydrogen technologies and systems. And I will bring this hydrogen technologies and system as an example how this industrial policy could work in the future. I think when we work with the industry, with the member state, there was a lot of enthusiasm for getting there. And hydrogen market is not functioning in Europe yet for a simple reason. that hydrogen is too expensive. Hydrogen is too expensive because there's no market. So there is a sort of rationale to share the risk and invest jointly by the public and private sector in order to create those markets. The industrial policy communication will announce the launch of the Industrial Alliance for Clean Hydrogen. This means that we will sit together on the table with a number of member states who want to invest in hydrogen, and with more than 150 companies who also see the future in hydrogen, be it production of hydrogen, be it storage and distribution, or be it lead markets such as for heavy duty lorries. And as a sort of forerunner to this initiative, only in the next 2 weeks we will see two related initiatives, one on hydrogen-powered trucks, and the other one on hydrogen electrolysis. The second one, for example, aims at investing in 18 gigawatts of hydrogen in the next 10 years. 40 will be in Europe, and the rest will be in Africa and Ukraine. So you see, this is the sort of approach that we think that could be very fruitful, that really could mobilize all the energy. We see a lot of energy in the industry. We organized two conferences in Brussels with more than 800 participants. And we see that in this way we created a momentum that really allowed to break this conundrum and to move one step further and do it before our competitors do it. Actually, if you look at the evolution from the creation of batteries, we're trying to catch up with the Chinese when they are because we're lagging behind. With hydrogen, we are more or less at the same level with the Chinese and ahead of America. So if we manage to build on this approach, if we manage to focus on those areas where we have industrial potential, where we have really industrial leaders, I think it will be a very interesting way for us, for the Commission, to work with the industry and to get to the realization of the Green Deal as it is designed. Now, a couple of words to end on our initiatives of clusters. I'm a little bit preaching to the convinced, but I think it's still worth to say some words. Not least because clusters also can play a very important role in the context of strategic value chains, where we see them as one of the key components of policy making, allowing also for those spillover effects, ensuring that the efforts of this investment are beneficial to the European economy. So we have the European cluster partnerships, and we see from the perspective that have been launched in 2016, that how they accelerate the transformation through transnational collaboration, co-investment and joint activities across Europe, allowing SMEs to benefit from new technologies, from innovation, and from the internationalization of the activities. And in the end, commercialization is the key to measure the success of environmental solutions. So it's a sort of business case or social case. In the global markets, we also see how powerful clusters can be. We have the action called Low Carbon and Circular Economy Business Action in the Americas. This action, you could see how from the small amount, very small amount of money invested, a couple of million euros, we ended up with a huge portfolio of contracts, of business contracts, of investment in the Americas, but benefiting European companies that are specialized in new technologies. We are also looking for the potential of cluster-based policy for other international contacts. For example, we are considering launching a cluster partnership with Africa, probably with Morocco, will take the expanding even further, also in the context of the European strategy for Africa. The word about public acceptance, because Joanna already mentioned it, it cannot be all top down. We also need to listen to you, to the citizens, who can have their own ideas about how Green Deal should look like. So we also need to use the available funding and policy making for stimulating social innovation projects and startups in domains such as clean local energy provision, water management, and shared clean mobility. And this approach will not only help us a little bit to win more public acceptance, but also avoid an uneven distribution of costs and benefits, crowding new ideas, and the world is complex today, the systems very often can have much better ideas than we do in Brussels, but also upscale the best solution to make it a reality. So we are looking a little bit for the possibility of launching these local green deals, which would be sort of local citizen-led coalition for the cost of green deal. And finally, a word about what we do for SMEs through our European Resource Efficiency Knowledge Center, called ERIC, which we plan to further develop in the years to come, which we plan to team up together with European Cluster Collaboration Platform. We see that in this sense, industry clusters can offer a very nice collaboration model and bridge building activities between research institutions and companies, and give SMEs the latest know-how in the area of green technologies. It is possible because ERIC networks members come from all over Europe and can offer an expertise on concrete steps for SMEs on how to go circular, how to do it. And they also often come from the regions which made successful green transition and can give a lot of advice to those regions who didn't do so far. So I will stop here. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to a very nice discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A very quick question from my side. When I think of the diffusion of circular economy, I'm thinking of those that push the solutions to the market, and I'm thinking of the adopters. And some of the late adopters are actually regions in industrial transition, and clusters in those regions are actually very, very important, play actually a leading role in policy. Is DG Grow, the European Commission, engaged into this industrial transition, support the regions in that sense?
I think we were already engaged in the pilot project for regions industrial transition, and where we also used our cluster collaboration platform, cluster policy. And now, as you know, we have the Just Transition Fund, which is supposed to assist those regions and those localities which might have particular difficulty in getting there. And for this, we think that, frankly speaking, money apart, there is no better policy than cluster policy. We have our smart specialization platform for industrial modernization. We will have a special instrument under regional policy, so-called Component 5, which will be directly managed and which will fund into regional initiatives. We will have Just Transition Fund, and we have those fantastic clusters in Europe, 250 clusters with green technologies. So I think these are all elements of the puzzle, which, when they fall into the pieces, they can do a great job for those places, for those regions.
Thank you very much. I will just turn to the audience to see if there are any particular questions. Sir?
Thank you very much indeed. My name is Petter Vuorimäki. I'm the Finnish ambassador for the Arctic and the Antarctic. I would like to start by congratulating the Regional Council and the European Commission for this excellent event on a very important theme. The sustainable development and circular economy are certainly at the top of our priorities, and a lot needs to be done in the European Union and Finland. But I would also underline the role of the Arctic Council in this regard, which has a major role to play. The comment and the question, if I may, is that when Finland chaired the European Union last year, we very much focused on the Arctic. We kept arguing that the climate change has progressed faster than anybody was able to anticipate, and that poses us with challenges and opportunities. And we repeatedly said that all of the Arctic states and many other countries are revisiting or drafting new Arctic strategies. And if the European Union is to be a credible Arctic actor, Also, the European Union would need to review and update the 2016 communication. As a result of that, the Foreign Affairs Council in December of 2016 recommended for the European Commission and the High Representative to initiate work to update 2016. So my question, dear colleagues, is how will DG Environment and DG Grow take forward this work, and when will you take forward this work? And I finish also by referring to the multi-annual financial framework. I think efforts are needed by all to ensure that the Arctic challenges and the Arctic opportunities also find their way in how the European Union allocates its financial resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Quite a specific question on the Arctic.
It's a very specific subject, but of course it's all embracing in a way, because I think it indicates, the commitment of the European Union also to put a tailwind in those negotiations. I can't say when it will be ready, but I am sure that we are in partnership with you in order to take the journey with you as well as the work to be done. I'm not involved directly in the work there, but I know that this is a subject that comes up continuously internally, and of course we cannot abandon this part of our commitment on the global stage if we really want to strive for more. Regarding the MFF, as you know, a summit is coming up on the 20th of this month. It will be quite an acrimonious one, at least as things stand at the moment, in the sense that there's still quite a distance between what the member states would like to commit, or at least some of the member states would like to commit, and what the Commission and the Parliament are pushing for in terms of living up to achieving for more or striving for more on the world stage, whether it's on climate, whether it's on sustainable development, or whether it's about immigration and other security and digitalization ambitions that we have. So let's hope that there will be an apportioning of the budget in accordance with the ambitions, and that the member states will be ready to take on the challenges and put a bit more trust as well in the strength and the momentum that we can achieve together as opposed to individually.
And I'm sure that there will be more to come on the Arctic as well. We will have to shift to the next session. Thank you very much, Joanna Slavek. A round of applause for our speakers. And Esa Konkonen to the stage. So we have a mix of policymakers introducing strategies. So we have now the policy framework that has been introduced by the directors and Director General. The idea now is to see what are the policy instruments, what are the strategies, what is being done in practice. So please a round of applause to welcome our speakers. And Ulla, the floor is yours. Ulla, you work for DG Grow, so enterprise policy, SME policy, internal market, and you are head of units. Of course, you have the right to share the slides.
Yes, because I thought it's nice to put things on slides also. We have some very concrete takeaways, because I have also some very concrete deadlines on my slides and for opportunities for clusters. So I invite you, because some are quite imminent, in order to okay. So I was saying the deadlines are quite imminent, and that's why I invite you, particularly the clusters in the room, to have a look whether it's an opportunity for you. And as you said, yeah, I'm head of unit amongst different parts, also responsible for what we do with clusters. So let me write. go to the point what are very concrete cluster initiatives which we are having. So on one hand, and many of you are probably aware of the so-called InnoSoup activities in the Horizon 2020 programs, which are clusters as accelerators for innovation and industrial change. We are also using our European cluster partnerships for interregional and international cluster cooperation, and we are working on capacity building, where we use our Cluster Excellence program. I will go now in detail of these different programs. And it was already mentioned before, so we have the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. And on this platform, we have by now more than 1,000 clusters registered. And it was said before, amongst these more than 1,000, we have 250 in the green and clean tech. We are currently, here you have the overview where these 250 green and clean tech clusters are placed in Europe, so it gives you an idea. And it was also said that the different activities which we are having in circular economy and green tech are also on the international scale our low carbon business actions, which we are now rolling out larger, because the pilot was done in Mexico and Brazil and had very promising results. But we are starting from this year with more countries because we got more budget allocated, and we are including Chile, Colombia and Canada for the activity in Las Americas. So also there I invite you, if this is an interesting countries for you, to watch out, because throughout the year we will provide opportunities for European clusters to have the combination of funding to go in these countries, but also to have a soft landing with technical assistance in order to find the right partners. We are also upgrading, wherever I have to point, our European Cluster Collaboration Platform to make it even more useful. And we create the EU Cluster Hub. And for this Cluster Hub, we use what is by now the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. What we have done by now with the European Observatory for Clusters and Industrial Change, but also, as it was mentioned before, our ERIC tool, the European Resource Efficiency Knowledge Center, because we have realized, particularly as ERIC is there to reach out to the SMEs and use environmental agencies, we need, in order to reach out to the SMEs, we need the clusters. So we want to encourage, or a bit force even, the link between the clusters and the environmental agencies in order to have a better effect and a better reach out to the SMEs. And so we are now trying to link all our activities also to make it easier for the users to find everything in one place. So here, one of the very concrete ongoing activities, which are our partnerships, our cluster partnerships for going international. We know that several of you are very active in this, and I want to share with you that we are now working on the 4th generation of this call, and we will publish a call for going international this year, so very likely around summer. And for now we have several ongoing cluster partnerships, and this slide just gives you an overview in the different areas where we are working, but you see there's a huge spread out of the different topics. Okay, it's the same for the InnoSoups, and here is the deadline, 2nd of April, because the next call for Horizon 2020 InnoSoup proposal is a deadline 2nd of April. And we know that particularly in the circular economy areas, we have some very successful InnoSoups ongoing, so I invite you to check out this new call. We are also, I wanted to share with you that, because it was said before, that looking at the people, putting the people in the center, that means also looking the skills, the need for and upskilling of the workforce. And that's what we also have done with clusters, because we have transferred what we had, the European Cluster Policy Forum, in an expert group where we brought together member states and cluster experts. And from this expert group, we are now having a working group on skills and clusters, because we think clusters can be a perfect tool to help to and upskill the workforce. And what we want them to do, to use a recommendation which this working group of clusters is currently working on, to present it at our upcoming European Cluster Conference in Berlin during the German presidency, which takes place from the 9th to the 11th of November, where we also want to hook up with our colleagues from DG Employment who have the VET weeks, the vocational educational training, in order to show that particularly for clusters we need to work in the different policy areas together. And we are also looking in the outcome of today's meeting, of today's conference, to use it and talk about what was discussed today during our European Cluster Conference. So I think it will be then a very concrete next step. Another opportunity is what we have started to pilot. We call it Cluster Exchange Program, and it is also inspired by the Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs, because the idea is to allow for short-term exchanges, not only for cluster managers, but also for cluster members. And as cluster members can be SMEs, bigger companies, research center, universities. So we really give the opportunity to the different partners of a cluster to exchange. We have a pilot scheme starting in February, and we will see how this works, but we got a high number of applications for this call, so we are planning to issue a new call very soon in 2020. So also this could be a new opportunity, because this would allow, for example, also for technology transfer, for learning from each other, to use this pilot scheme. Another opportunity not directly related to clusters but to cities is the 100 Intelligent Cities Challenge. And we know some Finnish cities like Pori were very active in the Digital Cities Challenge, which was a precursor of this. And also here, please watch out, because we are working for a call of expression of interest to become part of these cities. So the idea is that cities, and it's not only about the digital strategy, but it's also about the circular economy, the clean tech, to transform the city, but by transforming the city, offering the opportunities to the companies in the city. So it is this link between the city and the economic development which we want to foster. And due to the high demand we had during the Digital Cities Challenge, we are now also issuing the Intelligent Cities Challenge. And with the different elements, the different partnerships which we have mentioned, we are working for the new multi-annual financial framework to work with the experience on the joint cluster initiatives. So we use all of this experience, these discussions, in order to produce what we call the joint cluster initiatives. I'm not going in detail here, it's just to point out this is towards the future. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ola. Some very interesting tools and instruments. The questions for the end of the session, we will also have the networking. Just to mention that the links will be made available, so we'll be able to check the calls for the clusters. But as you understand, the calls are open as well under InnoSup, meaning that the SMEs, for example, can now apply to actually a plethora of very interesting project funding. So thank you very much. Besides funding, financing, exchanging and networking, Esa, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Happy to represent here the macro-regional dimension of cluster collaboration and innovation cooperation in general, and especially in circular economy and industrial symbiosis. Especially representing here the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region, a macro-regional strategy launched 11 years ago, so we are the first macro-regional strategy for EU, and then later followed by other macro-regional strategies for Alpine region and Danube region and Adriatic Sea region, for example. And Baltic Sea region is full of different kinds of actions for transnational cooperation, networks and organizations, and a lot of projects. We've been even criticized for that there's too much different kinds, sometimes overlapping cooperation, but that's why we needed this strategy. We are mainly EU region and mainly consisting of small, young EU countries, then also interesting external partners in the region. So we really needed this, after the EU enlargement, we really needed this strategy to better coordinate our joint efforts to tackle the challenges we have and utilize the full potential of the region, especially in the framework of European policies and instruments. And that has really worked. Compared to the times before the strategy, I think that the cooperation now today in the region is much better coordinated. It's more strategic, bringing better impact and results. But we need to improve. And we are now revising our strategy. It will be finalized this spring and introduced especially in next annual forum in Turku, Finland in June this year. And this is a very important time, interesting time for this revision process. We are preparing for the next program period. We should be able to learn from the experiences and build on the experiences we have gained in this now ending program period. This strategy consists of a great number of policy areas from different areas of environment to transport and energy and education, and then innovations. And I'm working as one of the coordinators of the policy area innovation of the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region, based in Baltic Institute of Finland in Tampere, and working together with Estonian Ministry of Communications and Economic Affairs and Polish Ministry of Science and Higher Education in this coordination. So we are facilitating shared learning and the strengthening of networks in the region, aligning of resources and regulations, facilitating joining up of forces and in common programs and investments and projects, and developing challenges for our solutions for our common challenges. And then of course enhancing the visibility and profile of Baltic Sea region Europe-wide. So this is not just some kind of a transnational block or silo, but this is a European kind of a policy instrument, a tool for us to be better partners for whole Europe and work in European networks and in European policies. But between neighboring countries, it makes sense to coordinate those efforts, to join forces when we are aiming at to be successful in horizon funding or to be active in different European cluster initiatives. So there's a lot of room for coordination here in the region. Now in the new action plan, we have a kind of three main action topics in innovation. A challenge-driven innovation where circular economy is maybe the most important, most interesting, most attractive topic at the moment, together with blue growth especially. So those are the very just based on the natural assets we have in the region, both in terms of bioeconomy and maritime resources and also industrial symbiosis related opportunities. But I would especially focus here on regional and a local dimension. Regions and cities have been maybe the most active stakeholders in the Baltic Sea cooperation, and also in the innovation cooperation, and that's our asset. So this is true multi-level governance that we've been representing. So even for smaller and peripheral northern regions like Lapland here, this European cooperation opportunities have really enabled new resources, stronger visibility, internalization opportunities for companies, and this is what the Baltic Sea region regions and cities have really utilized, and this has been also very visible in our activities. So there are dozens of really active cities and regions working currently and together preparing, also increasingly together preparing for next program period. And for that, smart specialization has been an excellent policy instrument for the regions. So of course, for many regions who have been active in cluster policies long time, smart specialization is not anything special. So that we have been specializing before on specific sectors, but now we have had in this program period kind of a common framework and common approach for that, and it has helped for the regions to somehow understand their assets and where do they stand among European regions and what are the complementarities. And Lapland is an excellent example how your assets including the industrial competence here in Kemi-Tornio region, that it's as your smart specialization, one of your smart specialization priorities. You've been really visible region in European networks, including also circular economy related activities in the Baltic Sea region. You are one of the members of the Nordic Industrial Symbiosis Network, together with other leading Scandinavian circular economy ecosystems. And when regions work together, coordinate their policies, also join increasingly, share their resources and innovation assets. So it makes sense and brings added value between the neighboring countries, and this is the point. So we are now building based on the experiences from a great number of projects and on this program period, we are trying to make it into a kind of a transnational smart specialization ecosystem program, so that in the next program period, it wouldn't be only that regions have their own smart specialization strategies and implementing them with their own resources, but to implement them together increasingly. Also, what comes to the using of their structural funds, so that why to be only depending on some once a year Interreg calls or other calls, but to use the resources that you have in your own hands also for transnational or interregional cooperation. And this is a key element of this that to implement your regional innovation policies together, and it means then share also your innovation infrastructure, provide the innovation services for companies transnationally, to give opportunity for your companies to benefit from the expertise and test facilities in another country. And between neighboring countries, this really makes sense. And when we come to circular economy, it's an issue where we especially need to, it's about very big investments. And when we talk about R&D investments or then waste management related investments, so we should be able to also coordinate those investments and understand the value chain opportunities especially between neighboring countries. And of course, in the cross-border regions like Tornio, Haaparanda, that's already a reality. But this is basically whole Finland is a cross-border area, and that applies to other Baltic Sea region countries. So this is what we are promoting now, somehow combining our existing fresh results from different projects, pooling them and then scaling them up to other regions, and preparing for the post-2020 period so that we could really start implementing inter-regional innovation investments together, go to the next level from this still very project by project based cooperation to more strategic cooperation in the future. Yes, time is running out, so not going into the example, but yes, here's contact details to our activities and results, and including this fresh newsletter on industrial symbiosis best practices and some recommendations of what could we do together in the future. And this may be all from my part at this point, and I'm looking forward to good discussion. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Isa. Thank you. That makes a very nice link, I think, between how regions and clusters can get together, to how we can support them, to how we can invest in them. And this is what Slavik was highlighting this morning, the role of Future Component 5, which would be meant to invest in this kind of collaboration. Now we will take a Finnish perspective. Nani Majunen from Sitra, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for joining. We know that Sitra is a key agency in Finland and organizer of the World Circular Economy Forum. Yes, of course, technicalities. This is a conference on circular economy, definitely not on digitization.
Good day, it's great to be here. So I have to talk without my hands. My colleagues always laugh at me because I want to start with the big picture. So today also, I start with the big picture from the planet Earth and our society. And when we talk, of course we need to have individual perspective, local perspective, but at the same time we need to understand the connection. Because we are overusing these natural resources of the planet Earth. And when we talk about smart cities, we have to understand that we are planning new areas where we are living. Is it even possible to take carbon neutral circular economy solutions in use in those big cities? 75% of us are going to live in those big cities. And when we talk about digitalization, do we understand that every day we sell around 7 million smartphones, every day, 7 million smartphones, and only 90% of the materials are coming back to use. So 90% of all of the products are based on using natural resources. So we have quite many things to do. And when we talk about electricity in our transportation, we need to understand that we need this energy and we need batteries. We don't have a recycling system for these lithium batteries anywhere in the world, and at the same time we have also challenges to recycle these smartphones and computers. So that's why I start with big picture. And when we take those natural resources, we need different kind of industrial processes there. So, and we need to take circular economy solutions in use in every phase of this system. When we published the roadmap towards circular economy here in Finland, it was 2016. And the plan was to have really action plan. It was not a policy paper, but we need to make this happen, really happen here in Finland. And when we published the roadmap, we also wanted to make this visible. I drew this picture because I wanted to show how we use these natural resources. All of the natural resources are coming from somewhere. They are going, all of the materials are going through different kind of processes, to products to use, and then hopefully they are starting a new life. There are also byproducts coming out from those industrial processes, but there are much more because there are behind all of these phases, there are public and private organizations, and we need all of those organizations working with us towards circular economy. We have different kinds of business models. We want to design the products that they are long-lasting, we can use them, we can repair those. We have different kind of share platforms. We need to think when we develop new materials, hybrid and composite, difficult materials, how we can recycle those difficult materials in the end of life. Then we have digitalization. Of course, we have great solutions from the digitalization. We need to have research and education. We need to understand the connection. Was it my time already? We need to understand the biodiversity and climate change, what are the connections there, and when we make changes in this huge global value net, what are the impacts there in different parts of this global value net? We have all these different kind of tools here in Finland, how we help different organizations to take circular economy in use in their everyday life, in their organizations. In the morning break, coffee break, I heard that 95% of the Finnish companies are micro-sized, and so that means that there are only less than 10 people working in those companies, and it's less than 2 million euros per year. So 95% are those kind of companies. How can we help those companies to also integrate different kind of circular economy business models in their everyday life? So we have published a table. It's open and it's free and it's in English. So it's really free to take in use anywhere in the global. Then we have also published a list how we have different kind of companies here in Finland who are already working in circular economy. So it's also public and it's also in English. And when we started the roadmap work here in Finland, we had around 100 cluster projects or collaborative projects. And one of those projects was this circular economy in industry. We have started this work here in Kemi in 2016, and we started to create and focus on know-how. How much do we have already know-how in circular economy in industry here in Finland? And then we had a really nice network of eco-industrial parks here in Finland. We had 11 parks, and we have visited all of those parks in these years, and we have learned from each other, and we have created a concept model how we can also help new areas to create eco-industrial parks. Then we started really nice network with Nordics, and we have great eco-industrial park network also between Nordic countries. And then we started also this cluster work with the UNIDO, and now I hope that after this conference we are more and more working also together in EU level, because we need to scale up this know-how and actions, really actions in industry. So, but what do we need here when we create circular economy solutions in industry? We need really long-lasting work, because like here in the area, the work has started many years ago. Maybe we can say that it's 2,000 years old, because we have known how to recycle metals quite many years. But here, with this project, it started from the academic work. We need academic research, we need these results in use, we need piloting projects, we need to make these results in actions and to business, and it takes time. And we need also funding for this. So that's really important issue. We can't wait 2 years to find funding money for the piloting process, or we can't jump around when we try to find more funding for the research work. Because we need to understand that all of the research funding is good for us, and it's making the global change in industry. And then we need also fluent permit processes, local and in EU level. And of course we need good legislative environment. And then we need skills, like we have heard in my colleagues' presentations as well. We need to have more know-how. That's why here in Finland we have focused a lot in education, because I believe that all of us, we have a right to be a part of sustainable future. So we need also to have know-how what to do in our everyday life. Around maybe 30 years ago, we have had already sustainability managers in the companies. But we believe that it's issue for everyone. So that's why we have funded, Sitra has funded around 4 million euros the Finnish education system, because we believe that all of the professionals are going to be also professionals in circular economy and sustainability. So it doesn't matter are you working in a police or teacher or nurse or engineer, you understand what is your part of this big transition. And from the autumn 2019, we have had circular economy courses in every level of this school system. Now we try to target the people who are already in working life. And of course we want to scale this up in global level. Now we are planning what to do with other countries in EU, and if we can help anything, how you can create this kind of education model in your country, please contact me. I'm happy to help you further. So, and then back to big picture. What are the connections? We are all individuals. We have published a lifestyle test in Sitra's web pages, and we all can count what is our carbon footprint there. But we have to understand that the big issues are happening in the industry. 67% of the CO2 emissions are coming from the industry. So we need to make big changes there, how we can use natural resources in a wise way in the future. So the big issues, find the balance. I'm sure that we are going to use natural resources also in the future, but how we do it? Is it in a responsible way? Is it in a sustainable way? So hope we find the solutions also here today and tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Nani, well, I'm looking at the bus, the logistical bus, to see if I still have time for a lot of questions before we go to a very short coffee break. One question, it will be difficult to pick. Any question from the audience? I feel there's a lot that has been said already. From your presentation, I love this picture of the meta cluster. And if there are two teachings that I keep, it's this multifaceted nature of circular economy, the fact that we are bringing a lot of complex things together. Another aspect, what you mentioned is, first we need to collaborate. I think this is what you build, this network of eco-industrial labs. And the other one is, we cannot wait, and we need proper funding for the piloting demonstration activities. So I think those are very strong messages linking back to the fact that we are now working on the new Green Deal. I will invite you to a very short coffee break before the last panel, and then we'll get on to lunch.
Yes, coffee will be served behind that door. Maybe we can take coffee and passion with us here. So just be here like in 15 minutes instead of 25 minutes.
So we will take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and a round of applause for our panel speaker. Thank you very much.